Welcome back everyone, I'm Tyler. Today on Wood Nerds, I'm going to show you how I put a router plate in my assembly table that folds up against the wall. Probably like a lot of you guys, I work out of my garage and I don't have a lot of space out here, so I try to utilize this for as many things as possible. It works great as an outfeed table, an assembly table like I was saying, or like a general workbench. And if I could implement at least one other thing, which is going to be now a router table, it's going to save me space. I might divide this up into two different videos. The first one, the router plate and the TTrack in here for the fence. And then the last one's going to be the fence because it is a little bit more complicated. And I think I might also include the dust collection idea that I utilized for this guy. But let's go ahead and jump into the video. To make sure that my router would clear the legs while they're folded up against the wall, I started underneath. I used those measurements and transferred them to the top here. Then I used some double-sided tape to hold the plate down. These are basically MDF guides for the router when I route this out here in a second. I used double-sided tape on them, set them up, removed the plate, removed the double-sided tape. Use a small amount, it'll be hard to get out of there. Then I used the recommended 1.5 inch Forstner bit and lined it up using the corners of my little MDF guides here. So you want to go straight down. I think it's 3/4 inch. Double check, make sure, because your plate could be different than mine. So double check to make sure you have the right radius for the Forstner bit and then the depth as well. But I'm going to be using this router bit and I'll include this in the description below if you guys are interested. Now, if you're doing what I'm doing, I'm trying to set the exact depth and then hollow everything out that I need to, bore out the melamine. But if you stay a little later, I'll show you how I ended up adding leveling screws. This way, it doesn't really matter. You can actually have a big gaping hole here. The leveling screws will allow you to keep everything level and secure. But I started around the edges. You can see I missed a couple spots. Don't let your router bit hit those corners unless it's the 1.5 inch size, which it probably isn't. If you do, it'll change the radius. You'll have a really sharp corner in there, and then it won't exactly fit your router plate. I added this MDF piece in the middle, and this allows me to route around without really any issues. And then I drilled 4 holes and then used my jigsaw to cut out the center hole. I really botched it, honestly. It looks ugly. It works perfect, but I keep forgetting about how things look on camera. I'm going to try and change that up here going forward, so look out for better shop jobs. I used a file to fix any little pieces that were left, removed all the MDF, and it fit perfect. And then I applied my router base, and I took off the little wooden handles on this one, and then just kind of set it in here to feel out what size of hole I'm going to have to additionally carve out of this sucker. Traced it out with a Sharpie, and then followed through. I ended up using the router actually just to cut this baby out. Again, it looks terrible, but it works really well. So that's really the big thing for me here. But again, yeah, going forward, I'm going to try and do better aesthetic looking pieces. But as you can see, it fit perfectly. Again, stick around here in a little bit. I'm going to show you how I added leveling screws to this. As you can see, I really didn't need them, but I figured it would be a nice topic to go over. Hey, I hope you're enjoying the video. If you are, do me a favor, hit the like button and then drop a comment down below and tell me what you like about it. Also, if you haven't already, subscribe and hit the bell notification icon and you'll get notified when I drop new videos, like the continuation of this video where I build this fence and then talk about the dust collection system. If you're not enjoying this video, drop a comment down below and tell me what you're not liking about it. I'll take your feedback and then try and do better next time. I appreciate it. Let's get back to the build. With the plate sitting in there, I added the router. And I bought these really cool extended wrenches. That way you can change bits from the top like this. These are actually really nice. Again, I'll link all this stuff in the description below. But I traced out my pilot holes. This is going to be where I'm going to add my threaded inserts and the holes for the bolts that are going to hold this in place. I went over everything with a file to kind of clean it up a little bit. I use this little drill guide, which has been super helpful actually. I do have a drill press now, and it's been really awesome, but in places like this, you just can't use it, and I suck at keeping my drill straight up and down. So this thing has been quite handy. So I drilled the hole for the bolts, and on the opposite side, I'm gonna hollow out a little bit larger of a hole that's gonna fit the threaded insert. I like to make the hole 2 different sizes. That way the bolt has a little bit more narrow of a path to go through rather than hogging out the entire size of the threaded insert. And then here it is from below. Again, super ugly. Sorry you guys had to look at this, but here are the threaded inserts from this opposite side. Take note that the thickness of my top is 1.5 inches. It's 2 3/4 inch pieces of melamine. But afterwards, I easily screwed the bolts into those threaded inserts and tested it out for level, and it worked really well. And now I'm using a little template that I have for a hexagon on a little, I guess this is 5mm sheet of plywood. And keep in mind the direction that your router bit spins. Your router bit spins counterclockwise in this orientation, and you want to come at it moving the piece to the left, as you can see I'm doing here. Now, unless you're doing a climb cut, but that's for another video. And it works really well, but Lord, it made a mess. So I'm going to be working on the dust collection system in the next video. So here's where I add the leveling screws. So if you screwed up and this didn't work out, you can just go through with your router and take, I don't know, another 1/4 inch off or something like that from the entire space. Drill holes, add threaded inserts, just like you did. I just did it in the opposite orientation where the threaded insert's on top rather than bottom. And then I used little knobs, and you just screw the knobs in from the bottom. I ended up actually replacing these with screws, but this worked perfectly, and it was able to keep it really nice and level. The only problem I had was because the table's so large and there's no support in the center, it kind of bowed. So what I ended up doing is cutting 2 more, I guess you want to call these center aprons. I'm not entirely sure what the terminology would be. But as you can see, I added those, and they really helped level the top up. So it was really nice and flat. Here I go showing you, this is really, I love this bench so much, man. And now that it has a router inserted into it, it's even more valuable to me. But here we go, setting everything up. Just dropped it down. I have a little Y for my shop vac. This is a little power strip accessory that I have. This actually works as a great switch. I plugged the bottom portion of the Y into the router base where I have a little setup. You guys will see that later. And then the top portion is plugged into the fence. And it works really well. It's not perfect by any means, but the shop vac really isn't meant to be split into 2 pieces like this. I'm gonna buy a real dust collection setup, and I think that's gonna make this really a perfect solution. Onto the TTrack, I'll go over my exact measurements for this one just in case you have built or plan to build this bench that I have from one of my previous videos. I went 16 inches up from the bottom and 16 inches in from the side, and I did this on both sides. This should be pretty close to center for the router plate. And once the fence is at this point, it'll actually hang over the center, so we should be good there and get complete coverage of the bits. From this point, I decided to go back 2 feet, and this will give me some flexibility when I decide to cut in the future. Maybe I want to use this for a panel or something, perhaps when making cabinets. I'm not sure. I really just want to keep it flexible. I have the space, so it really doesn't hurt anything. I set up some guides, and take a look at the clamps that I'm using here. The TTrack that's already set up on this workbench has been awesome. I use these clamps all the time. Now I know these slots are 2 feet in length, but to leave some space for the T-slot bolts, I ended up cutting at 22 inches for the T-track, and I used some painter's tape on the outside of this, which helps collect some of that aluminum dust that comes out of this baby. So a little tip for you. I highly recommend sanding all the edges really well. This will help you from any chips in case something comes in contact with it. It'll just kind of slide over. And also pre-drilling. Pre-drilling helps that way. As long as you're in the center, when you go to tighten these babies up, they won't shift on you. More to come on this DeWalt impact driver. Freaking awesome, dude. And there it is. That was really easy. I hope you appreciated adding the leveling steps in there. I really didn't have to. After I had routed everything, it was perfect, but I was thinking to myself, it would make sense in case it didn't work out perfect for you. You may have to do, just like I did in the second piece, go down a little bit, route out all of that extra stuff, and then add your leveling screws. But that's really it for this video. Keep an eye out for video number 2, which is going to be the fence. I have the video all done. I just need to edit it and put it together. But I'll see you guys there.